Hey, Olu.
Hi there, Liz.
Can you believe it has been a month since we recorded our last episode?
I mean, I feel like I want to do a copy of that Rose from Titanic meme. It's been 85 years.
It feels it feels like we are in a different world even. It's not just that it's a
Yeah,
new year. It's just so much has happened in that short break that we took. But
yeah.
we're going to talk about it. Welcome to Liberal Banter, everyone. Our first topic, we are recording this on a Sunday, and it is the
The day
Sunday.
before the inauguration.
Yes, it is the Sunday before the inauguration, and I think most people are kind of like, okay, whatever. I mean, I personally just view it as like MLK Day, but that's just me personally.
That's the
Um,
only holiday we recognize
that is
here
all
on
I know
tomorrow.
that's happening on Monday. Nothing else. People in DC that I know are like out of town. Some of them are in like Hawaii. They're just like, I'm not going to be in. They're celebrating MLK Day by being outside the city. Good
I
for
mean,
them.
good for them.
Good for them.
Yeah, take care of yourself, guys. You do not need to plug in into this if you don't have to,
Nobody
and
does.
nobody has to.
Exactly. But that's not our first topic. Our first topic is actually just breaking news about TikTok because it's been a fascinating 24 hours on this story. So, as many of you must know, TikTok was going to, or is banned actually, or the ban went through for TikTok. Their last ditch effort at the Supreme Court did not work, and the app was banned. And TikTok, honestly, being petty, I don't think they did this for any real strategic business reason. Yesterday, Saturday, around 10 p.m. Eastern, or before midnight, which was everyone's expectation, the app stopped working. And it was very dramatic. Very, very dramatic. People were not okay after TikTok stopped working all of a sudden. It was like it was like a moment of sadness for people, and I want to read some of the reactions from other social media platforms where people were commenting on losing TikTok. My favorite is a quote from someone who is a student who said, and this really sums up a lot of how Gen Z and Gen Alpha were feeling after TikTok was cut off. And this is a quote: I feel cut off from the world and society. I know nothing that is happening. No news. There could be an effing genocide going on right now, and the elites are preventing us from learning about it. I lost all of my friends like they were murdered in front of me. I am alone with my thoughts, and there is no outlet for me to let it out. I feel so effing depressed. I don't know what to do with myself anymore. I don't even feel like waking up and going to school on Monday. All of
Okay,
my
I
friends
don't.
are gone. I don't know how to
Okay,
continue without them.
I don't mean to be flippant, but like, get an SSRI. Like, this is insane.
Is it seasonal depression or is it that TikTok is banned? We
Like,
don't know.
this is just an outsized reaction to what I just see as basically a non-event, whether TikTok stays or goes. I don't understand this like outcry. I feel like a lot of it is performative. As a millennial who's gone through like all of the biggest social media app platform booms, they all come and go. Guys, Gen Alpha and Gen Z, you'll be fine. There'll be a new one. It's fine.
Well. Speaking of a new one, there was a lot of coverage this week. In the last couple of days before the ban, a lot of people were moving to Red Note, which is actually Chinese-owned app based in China, not Singapore, like TikTok. And people were joking about learning Mandarin, and their Chinese spy was going to follow them to Red Note. That seemed to be one of the reactions. There was another reaction people were having was like, if you think we're giving our information to China via TikTok, what we're going to do actually is go to a Chinese app and use it instead. And it was staged as this form of rebellion. So I don't. I know that it's a social media platform going away, like in the grand scheme of things, I would agree it's not a big deal. However, I do think there is something different about TikTok that is really motivating and inspiring the youth. As millennials, we have to call them that because we're super old now. That's inspiring the youth to be more attached to it and more annoyed and angered by it as a result of the ban. I don't think this is your typical, like, your MySpace going away, your Vine going away, you know, your Tumblr kind of slowly receding into obscurity. This seems like more than the usual type of feeling around a social media app.
I don't know if we're gonna agree. As someone who's like seen all of these things come and go, I mean, there was a time where like Facebook Marketplace was like the place to be as a business, and then it moves along. These things ebb and flow. There was a time where like Yahoo was the biggest place ever where you could find everything. They had a marketplace, they had a dating site, everything. It went away. It's fine. Like there's really no big upside to either option. People are acting as if this is some kind of like infringement on their basic civil rights. And it's just like, no, take a chill pill. Like there is no actual like legal repercussions. You're not going to jail for using TikTok, for example. Meanwhile, in China, you could go to jail for like downloading the social media apps that they do not allow. So like, can we just have some fucking perspective for 2 seconds?
Listen, perspective has left the room. I want to also talk about the politics of this because I actually think that has become a big part of this. So some of us are old enough to remember summer of 2020, Trump had a rally. TikTok youth organized to sign up for tickets and then not show up. So the rally seemed like it was going to be very popular, oversold because the tickets were free. Those TikTokers signed up, took all the seats, and then nobody showed up. The rally was empty. And that was the beginning of Trump's beef with TikTok. This was 2020. Now, of course, TikTok has referenced and Trump is positioning himself as the savior of TikTok. So the message that many people received yesterday when the app first went down was something very simple, talking about, you know, due to a law in the US, this app is not going to be available in your marketplace, you know, thanks and we'll be back soon. That was the first version of the we are done with this, you know, the app is shutting down notification. But about an hour into the shutdown, the message changed and the pop-up you would get read, "We are fortunate that President Trump has indicated that he will work with us on a solution to reinstate TikTok once he takes office. Please stay tuned." That is a very different message that a lot of people noticed and have called out as a sign that Trump will save the app, number one, but also that TikTok seems to have basically bent the knee to Trump. And we have Trump and his people doing a victory lap this morning, saying they want to save the app. They love it so much. What do we think changed between 2020, when Trump and the Republicans were upset and thought this was a threat to national security, and 2025, where all of a sudden it's an app worth saving, they're worried about free speech? How did we make that change? What are we thinking is the reason?
I mean, but this is not surprising to anyone who has paid attention to Republicans and their ways of drawing up policy. They have no actual ideological coherence. They don't necessarily believe in anything, right? This is governance by social media, right?
That's true.
Trump is just following the wind, whichever it goes. And this is what he does, wherein very much like abortion and reproductive rights, right? He would just say whatever is helpful to the crowd, to the person he's speaking to at the moment. And it all, as you said, Liz, on this podcast many times, it all depends on the last person who like gassed him up.
Yep.
You know, like if whoever is anti-TikTok gasses him up tomorrow, he will tweet something different tomorrow.
It's the same thing he's done with crypto. In 2019, he thought crypto was a threat to the banking system and, you know, it needed to be regulated. And now he just launched his coin yesterday and has made $25 billion in 24 hours. So it's just, there's, like you said, there's no coherence, there's no ideology, there's no principle that you can say they will follow to dictate what kind of decision they're going to be making. And on the other side of this discussion, we have the Democrats who are also catching flack for the way they have behaved throughout this whole thing. In the last couple of years, it became the sort of statement in DC that TikTok was a threat to national security. I think there is an argument to be made about how harmful TikTok and other social media can be to young people, especially. I mean, the comments we read at the beginning of the podcast, that is a person who not only may need medication, but should probably find another outlet in another social circle outside of an app. You know, that's a concern. We should fix that. We should work on that. But the argument was also around national security. And it was interesting that as the ban got closer and closer, the Democrats seemed to suddenly say, maybe we don't need to ban the app. Maybe we can work it out. We won't enforce the penalties if the app stays up. And so now it's beginning to make the Democrats look like hypocrites because they told us it was about national security, but they also don't seem to be standing on business. And now it's like, oh, we will leave the app up. You know, we'll let Trump decide. But is it a national security threat or isn't it? Which is it, guys?
Okay, but I feel like people have short memories, though, because the first concerns about TikTok's national security issue actually came during the Trump administration, right? Like, Trump has always beat the drum that China is America's biggest threat at this point, right? And, you know, if you say that, there is a logic there that if you say that and you have an app that is owned by a Chinese company and you have some concerns that the CCP could have access to it, like surely that is a national security threat. And
sure.
I think it goes both ways, right? That's why China is probably banning Facebook in China, because they feel like, well, Facebook will probably pipe in Western propaganda into our side. Like, at the end of the day, we're not like allies. At best, we're like frenemies, right? So I don't think that it's made up that there's a national security issue here. The problem is that, like, all of the devices themselves are also assembled in China. So, like, where do we take this national security, like, I don't know. What's the better word for Mexican standoff now? There's a better word for it.
I don't know.
This, like, you know, like, impasse or impasse. Like, how far are we going to take it? Like, how far are we taking this, you know, national security threats with China? Because then there's a lot more we should be doing than just TikTok. That's where the hypocrisy lies. I do think that there's a real national security issue there.
Listen, I don't disagree that maybe we don't want these apps to have some amount of information on us if they're going to be run by countries that are not looking out for our best interests. I don't disagree with that. My question is, why did the Democrats seem so staunch and so firm in their stance and are now backtracking? Just because of public perception? Is it just that, you know, Biden didn't want his last day to be the end of TikTok? Because it hasn't worked, right? Like, it's made the Democrats look like hypocrites, because if it's such a concern, why did they backtrack? Why did they start walking those threats back, basically? And they've given Trump a win. And I know we're going to say, you know, this shouldn't be a win for Trump. If you're paying attention, he started this in 2020. I understand. But remember, we're talking about the general public here. How does this make Democrats look good when they don't seem to be standing by the ban? They've basically handed Trump a win on his first day, to the point where the CEO of TikTok is going to the inauguration and reposting Charlie Kirk social media posts. Like, how did the Democrats, I guess, end up in this situation where now they look like the bad guys? They look like the hypocrites. They look like the people who are not standing on their principle.
I guess I have the opposite, or I have a different perspective to this. I actually don't think this is a win or a lose for anybody. I think that the political relevance of TikTok has been grossly overblown. At the end of the day, the young people doing the dances and showing off their cute boots on TikTok, they are not voting. Let's just be frank. They are not showing up to vote. So this is just noise to me. I don't think this moves the political needle in any direction, either win or lose for either party, whether TikTok stays or goes.
I'm going to disagree with you because I do think it had a role to play in the last election. And it's kind of like a few years ago discounting like the political relevance of like a Joe Rogan, and then 4 years later as a liberal it comes and bites you in the ass, right? Like I don't want that to happen. I really do think there is an entire generation of children, I'm calling them children now, some of them are teenagers, some of them are young adults, that are growing up on this platform and not gaining critical skills for navigating society intelligently. That comment I read at the beginning where that person said they're not going to get news, there could be a quote genocide happening. Apparently that child doesn't know that there are other news sources you can go to that are not TikTok. That is a concern we should have as a society. I'm not saying you can't get news on TikTok. Obviously you can. But we should be concerned that the platform that people trust the most is not one that technically has our best interests at heart, and is not one that is helping our young people develop the reasoning and attention skills. You know, I think I'm going to say it this way. If you think that getting your news in minute and a half chunks on TikTok is the only news you need, that is a problem. You should be able to get news from multiple sources, put all that information together and make a decision. You should not be getting your news from one news or politics influencer's TikTok post in a minute and a half. That is what is happening today. And these children are going to grow up and vote in a few years on important policies. And then we're all screwed. So I do actually think it's an actual important platform that we should be taking more seriously.
Okay, but Liz, if you had to guess if that person voted or not, like if you had to bet, what would you bet that person did?
I don't know if they voted in this election, but I think many of them will grow up and vote in later elections. I know they may not have voted in this election, but they will vote later. And they'll be setting direction for how our world is going to move. That is a concern of mine. They won't vote now, but they will vote eventually, right? It's older people that vote.
Well, I just looked this up. Okay, so youth vote in 2024 was actually lower than it was in 2020 and 2016.
Well, that's not a surprise.
Like the turnout was lower. So again, I think it's very hard to quantify how much, TikTok would have shifted an election one way or the other. But one thing that is constant is that the youth vote doesn't necessarily change much because in general, they just don't turn out.
Why? But they're not going to be youth forever, right? Eventually they move into the next category and they start voting. But now they've had 20 plus years of TikTok news. And now they're making decisions about reproductive rights. This is my problem. I understand they may not have voted in 2020 or 2024. I'm talking about it in which sounds very dramatic, I know, but I'm talking about it in a generational. I remember as a millennial, our thing was, I get my news from The Daily Show. And all the pundits were like, oh no, that's so terrible. The children are not watching CNN anymore. It's terrible. Understood. Those children, though, have grown up, and some of them are not getting their news from Joe Rogan. And that's why they think, the LA wildfires could have been prevented if we had just, raked some leaves some more or funneled in water from the ocean. We should be worried. We should be worried. We have to share a planet with these people.
That should be our tagline. We have to share a planet with these people.
I'm just saying. Listen, we are on TikTok. I want to say, we have an account there. We enjoy our time on TikTok. But I think as millennials.
Excuse you.
Well, I will correct myself. One of us enjoys her time on TikTok more than the other. But I think as millennials, that we grew up without social media. Most of us got on social media at a later age than the children today. And so we have, I think, a little bit more context and perspective. I don't know if the kids today have that. I don't want to sound like a grandma, but I think I don't I want to clarify. This is not about TikTok specifically. It's about social media, but that is the app that's getting banned. So that's what we're talking about. I think in general, social media, I think we can all agree, has not been great for society. And so we should all be worried if people are spending too much time on there. And politically, it is important because I do think there are TikTok fans, users today, as we speak, who are going to blame the Democrats for this. And we can say we don't need them, but as we said, we have to share a planet with these people. How's that going to look?
Well, I guess let's hope that your brains mature in the brief period that TikTok was off air. I don't know.
12 hours.
Let's hope that was enough for a reset.
I mean, I gotta say, the app itself, the sort of from a business perspective, the CEO of TikTok is going to be at the inauguration tomorrow.
Well, so is Tim Cook.
Yes.
Like,
Elon Musk, of course. I think Jeffrey Bezos as well. Quite a few of the tech CEOs are going to be there.
I love the full name.
I call him Jeffrey Bezos.
Jeffrey.
I call him Jeffrey Bezos because of that Bo Burnham skit or song. That's what I call it. I call him that because of that song.
Listen, I think we've just entered the vibes era, right? Everybody is showing up to like kiss up to Trump, and some of the Democrats are doing that as well, right? Like Ro Khanna or whatever his name is. Like everybody has decided that the best way, and actually there's, good evidence to back it up, is to flatter Trump for as much as you can and hope that your flattery outdoes the other person's flattery for as long as possible. So that's what's happening. This is the Emperor has no clothes era.
I don't disagree at all. I mean, even today when TikTok came back, their message was, thanks for your patience and support. As a result of President Trump's efforts, TikTok is back in the US. And I was like, President Trump? I mean, Joe Biden is still president for another few hours. The inauguration is tomorrow, as far as I know. But yeah, no, these tech CEOs they know what to do. You gotta flatter Trump. Flattery will get you everywhere in this administration. Yeah. That's basically the playbook for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
I gotta ask
whoever
though.
Whoever can play better will succeed.
Right, and I gotta wonder for the Republicans who voted for Trump. I don't even know if they're aware all of this is happening. How the oligarchy basically that we are starting. And I know some people say, oh, we've always been an oligarchy. Rich people always had special access to DC. Okay, sure. But I do think this is different, though. I don't think this is your usual, American money in politics. I think this feels different.
I mean, absolutely. It's at this point, they're not even bothering to like hire lobbyists, right? They're literally just texting him, "You're wonderful," directly, right? Like you get the sense that he gets on the phone with these billionaires directly and they flatter him. And that's that. Like they don't even have to do any special paying of consultants or lobbyists or anything. It's really because it's so fucking simple. So like it's beyond even like any machinations of any cabal. You don't need a cabal. You just need to like get on the phone with him and tell him he's the biggest brain in the world.
That's literally what's happening. TikTok posts a congratulatory message and oh, Trump will save us. And then all of a sudden they're back. I do think the stunt they did was part of that, but whatever. Elon Musk got in tight. I read that he's going to have an office in the White House now, which, okay, I guess. Bezos, Tim Cook, everybody is just hanging out in DC, just chilling, anytime they want something, just chilling. And along those lines, I think it will be interesting to see what policies they enact and talk about this first week. Don't think we've forgotten our promise to continue to check on the prices of eggs, the prices of groceries. I have not heard a single thing in the last week leading up to this inauguration about the groceries. Have you? Maybe I'm not paying attention.
No, I mean, anybody who is going to say that TikTok is a Trump win, like, so Trump's big MAGA Make America Great win is piling up to a Chinese company that he already told you for the last 8+ years that China is your biggest enemy. Like, how is that bringing business back to America
I
or
don't
making
know.
America great again? Like,
I don't
but
know.
there's no coherence, right? Just cognitive dissonance everywhere. So I don't know how they're gonna spin this one.
Either I saw some posts online today on Threads specifically, which is another platform. But I saw posts on Threads discussing potential tax policies that Republicans are weighing, and I, I mean, I continue to struggle to see how this is helpful. So some of the things that were listed as upcoming policy that Republicans are weighing to enact were around taxes and deductions for taxes. Specifically, some of the things that they said they may remove as deductions: the home mortgage interest deduction, the child care tax credit, deduction of interest on student loans. These are these are all things that would screw the middle class over completely. Like, imagine taking away the tax deduction for student loans, for child care credits, the child care credit or credit for child care, and your home mortgage. Do we think this is something that impacts people like the billionaires? Do we think the billionaires care if they don't get a deduction for paying them mortgage interest on their $10 million home? Oh, wait, there's no mortgage interest because they bought those homes with cash, so they don't have any mortgages. Who is going to get screwed over? It's Jan in Ohio with her $400,000 house and 3 kids. That's the person who's going to get screwed over if they take away the deduction for home mortgage interest. That's what Republicans are thinking about doing. Like, make it make sense, guys. Make it make sense.
Yep. I don't understand, again, why anybody would have voted for this guy, but at this point, we're just beating the same drum, right? He has been the candidate-elect, the president-elect for, 6 weeks now, and the biggest things that he has done are either for himself, enriching himself by $25 billion, as you mentioned earlier, by essentially scamming his own followers, right, into buying a worthless coin, or cozying up to billionaires and foreign companies.
It's just tragic. We've posted on Threads that this portion of America feels like when where you're watching a movie or a show, and there's a section of the season or a section of the movie where the bad guys are just winning. And everything is working out for them. Everyone is bending the knee. The Supreme Court isn't going to stand up to them. They have Congress in the bag. They're just going to do whatever they want, and nobody can stop them. That's what it feels like at this very moment.
But honestly, I love it for them. I may not love it for us, but I love it for them.
Yeah.
Because, like, they have everything that they've ever wanted, right? So if you guys are so smart and you want to play Masters of the Universe, have a go at it. Let's see how much more brilliant you are at it than, everybody else. No, I actually
No,
really
let them cook. I agree.
That. Like, let them cook. Like, maybe there's something that we're missing. So we're just going to sit back and, see you do it. Like, I really, really do wish Elon Musk the best of luck cutting about a third of, like, the federal, like, budget. I really wish him best of luck, because I would just love to see what the country looks like when we cut the National Park Service, where we cut infrastructure, where we cut healthcare, where we cut social welfare. Let's see how it goes. I mean, because these people have insisted for so long that they have the answers to everything. They have the keys to everything, if only the establishment will get out of their way. Okay, now the establishment is out of your way. Do your best. And I really do mean it. Do your best. Go ahead.
Go ahead. We're letting you cook. Let them cook. I agree 1,000%. Let's see. And we will be here to cover all of it. Some of our most popular social media content has been in the fuck around and find out category. So that's what we'll be doing. I will say, though, it sounds like you won't be watching the inauguration.
Absolutely not.
I'm going to sound like Ari Melber on MSNBC. As famed poet laureate and artist Kendrick Lamar said, miss me with that bullshit. Like, I'm not going to be watching any of that.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like this is the best thing that everybody who did not vote for Trump can do, because I promise you, Trump's fandom, like, they actually feed on attention from liberals. Like, their entire thing is to trigger liberals. Just do not give them the air, because there is no love there. And I can tell you that because I'm predicting that tomorrow his crowds will be even less than 2016. How do I know that? Like, do you guys remember 2020 and like 2012 and 2008? Remember all of the videos of all the people who voted for Democrats on the street? Mm-hmm. Remember the joy? Remember like the camaraderie? Remember all of the like honking cars when Biden won? Where have you seen that for Trump? Where? These people won and they are acting as if like nothing happened. Like they have everything they want. Like obviously this is not, January 6th, so they can't be angry, right? There's nothing for them to hang up nooses about and like set up fires about. So they are not out there because like they operate from a state of anger. They operate from a state of rage. And when they actually get what they want, they don't know how to be happy about it.
That's true. That's true. Sore winners. That's what they are. They're sore winners. I've never seen
anything like it before.
It's crazy. That's such a good point, though. We even said this in 2016, right? After they won, they kept sort of the first sort of month after Hillary lost in 2016. I remember so clearly even the pundits for Trump on the right on like the news channels kept trying to have these like the same sort of punching, fighting, verbally, of course, like skirmishes. And the Democrats were kind of like, I don't know why we're still arguing. You won. Congratulations. Like, I'm not engaging in this anymore. And that's definitely the mood right now. I think a lot of Democrats are just like, just whatever. And that is not what they want. They need an enemy to stay hype. And when you don't give that to them, when you don't interact, when you don't respond, it just, all the fight goes out. It's so, I've been seeing videos on social media from people who are in DC for the inauguration, and it just looks so lame. They look so lame. I'm so sorry. It looks so boring. And they're just sort of like wandering DC aimlessly, hoping a Democrat will start something with them. I've literally seen videos. I mean, also, the other thing was they're also disappointed that the inauguration is indoors. That's the other thing. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, we're not going to be outside. Oh, wow. Okay. And so that just like took all the air out of it as well.
Okay. I mean, we all know why that's happening, right? Like nobody actually believes that this is only because of the weather. We know this is happening because in 2017, Trump had an absolute meltdown that he didn't have the kind of crowd size that Obama had. And the pictures were just like pathetic. Like
they were.
It looked like less than a third, and that's even generous, less than a third of what Obama drew. And he would just spiral about it. And there was press conference after press conference.
That was literally his first his press secretary's first job was going out to tell everyone, look, the crowd sizes were big. Fake news. That's where that started.
So, like, he doesn't want that uptick again. That's literally what's happening.
The temperatures tomorrow for DC are projected to be a high of 25 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius for our international listeners. I'm sorry, I spent too much time in the U.S., but 25 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm literally going to look it up to give people context because I don't know what it is.
I'm going to guess -10,
No,
maybe?
it's not. It's -4. 25 Fahrenheit is
-4. Okay.
-4 Celsius. So
Okay.
-4 degrees Celsius, 25 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the temperature people are expected to line up in, crowd outside, standing to watch the inauguration. I don't know about you, but I don't think a lot of Trump supporters care enough to do that. Like, being honest.
For Barack Obama, it was 28 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not like that much colder than it has been
Oh,
in
oh yeah.
general, but
No, no,
whatever.
that's a good point. No, people, I mean, let's be honest. The inauguration is always in January. We know this. And it's always the winter in
Right.
January. So 28 versus 25 degrees, if you're out at 28, 25 is 3 more degrees. It's not that big a
Right.
deal. So people don't want to go. They're not motivated. Oh well. Like, oh well.
Exactly. People are simply not motivated to go. Like, I feel like his campaign actually knows that they're not expecting that many people. That's exactly what's happening. At this point, we are all used to like extreme weather changes. Everybody knows if you're going to DC in January, you should be like dressed for Arctic temperatures.
I don't know. I just think it's the Lord. God is like, no, I don't support this, okay? So you will not see any sunlight or even an additional degree Fahrenheit of heat from me. And it is what it is. It's
I
literally
think
snowing there right now. Like, it's so funny. There's a storm there right now.
I feel like I should bring up that the other coldest person was Ronald Reagan at 7. So if the
7
Republican,
Fahrenheit?
yeah,
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's got
so
to be
if
something.
the
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
And people
and
showed up for that.
people showed up for that. So again, it's never been about the temperatures, but whatever.
No, I mean, I agree. I think it'll be even better and sadder for it to be indoors for the first time in decades. I love that for him. I think it's the Lord at work. If you don't believe in God, then it's just Mother Nature being like, "Fuck you, dudes."
Mother
Either
Nature's a
way,
cat. Mother Nature's a catless, childless cat lady.
she literally is. She's like, "Screw this BS." Yeah, I will not be paying attention. I will be working. I don't have time for whatever the fuck is going on. Call me when they start passing policy. I think the first thing on the list, or one of the first things on the list, aside from obviously saving TikTok, which is mission critical, I guess. Have you seen the news about them potentially doing ICE raids and immigration raids in Chicago?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Well, there you go, guys. There you have it. First week of Trump's new term, we might be seeing immigration, USCIS, or the military in a U.S. city in Chicago to forcefully deport people. And the reason, did you see the reasoning they chose Chicago was because they wanted to pick a blue city, a sanctuary city, to send a message. So that'll be fun.
Again,
That'll be fun next
again,
week.
right? Because like where the biggest problem is, according to them, is Texas, right? But
The
again,
border, yes,
but
that's
Texas,
the
but
place.
this is the thing. But Texas is a Republican state. They literally have no agenda for the people aside from just antagonizing liberals. Like that's their entire existence. That's why, as you've pointed out, the reaction to like California going through like one of the worst natural disasters of the year. That's why the reaction to them has been so different from the reaction to like Florida and Tennessee, because again, they don't actually have any passions. They don't have any true beliefs. They don't have anything that drives them aside from owning the libs. That's it.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we were going to talk about the LA wildfires a little bit. What's happening there is very sad, and as someone who loves California, I I know it's not the whole state that's burning, but I want people to really truly understand the fires in LA are going to be the most expensive natural disaster in America's 200 plus year history. And it is stunning to me that the Republicans in DC have even mentioned, not it would be stunning if anyone even thought about it, but to actually publicly say they want to put strings, they want to put stipulations on aid is it's one of the most disgusting things I've heard from Republicans in a very long time. We literally we literally have states in the South that have hurricanes every year. And nobody, in the last 4 years of Biden, in the 8 years of Obama before that, there was never a discussion that we should put strings on aid for Florida, for North Carolina, for Texas, for Louisiana. But they want to do that for California, for LA. That is insane. That should bother every thinking American. It's disgusting. And owning the libs is not a policy. It's just pure hatred. We should not have people in DC like that. And if that doesn't bother people, they're part of the problem.
But this is it. When you've spent 10 plus years now, like dehumanizing people, right? Like everything that has been said about liberals is essentially, oh, they run a pedophile ring. Remember, like adrenochrome and like saying like all of these Democrats are part of it, and it's a very specific thing. When you demonize people, when you demonize, bi-coastal cities as a Sodom and Gomorrah, where you demonize all the people who tend to live there, such as black and brown people and gay people, when you demonize all of those people, then you make it very, very easy to say, like, we're not going to give those people aid unless these conditions are met, because you've already succeeded in making the country think that those people are less deserving.
Yeah, it's true. It's tragic, and I mean, this is not even something that we can, like, you're not going to lay this at the feet of social media, for example, right? These are like boomers having these conversations about how to deprive American citizens of aid in a state that is a net contributor to the US government, US GDP, right? I can't, like, of all the states, imagine if California stopped sending its money to the federal budget. The state of California is the I think it used to be fifth, but now it's like the fourth largest GDP in the entire world. They could just keep their money and not send it to, like, Mississippi. They could just keep their money. Every part of the American system relies on people paying into a system that they could rely on in the case of disaster. If we start changing that contract because people in that state's government are people we don't like, it's a slippery slope. And I don't think Republicans are going to be on the winning side of it. So I really urge people, if you can, if you have one of those Congress people that's saying these things, please reach out to them and tell them to shut the fuck up.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And this is how powerful California is. Like, everybody, you're buying those products that say, according to California law, A, B, C, or D, this product doesn't contain whatever carcinogen California has banned. Companies are doing it uniformly because they know that they don't want to, like, lose California's market. Like, that's why you see those things on your mattresses and whatever products you buy from China, from the EU. Like, people are so, like, invested in California's market that they're actually making their products more palatable to California's laws. Like, that's how important California is to the world, guys. Just
Yeah. It's just,
let's be real. The billionaires will choose California over you every time.
they will, especially since their homes are there. I know we are in for a ride, obviously. Trump takes office tomorrow. We could have avoided this, but here we are. So I'm curious what you have as predictions for, and I know it's kind of a surprise question, but what do you think is going to be happening? Let's say in the first 6 months, like when you interview for a job, you're like, what will I accomplish in the first 30 to 90 days? Let's give it a whole half a year. What do we think is going to happen in the first 6 months of this term?
I mean, we don't have to think, right? We just have to look at 2016. how many press secretaries would Trump go through in the first few months? Like, how many Scaramucci's are we going to get, you know, this time around, right? Like, how much chaos and infighting are we going to get, right? Like, we already know that this is going to be a mess. It doesn't seem like they have a handle on anything. Remember the story about the handover in 2016 when Jared Kushner did not realize that they would have to like completely restaff the entire White House when they came in, even though he was in charge of that, right? And we're seeing something similar now where the Biden administration is like the Trump administration has not officially signed handover papers. Like it's the same thing. We don't need to predict. We already know what's going to happen.
That's true. I think disorganization is going to be the theme for the first 6 months. I think there will be a lot of petty nonsense in terms of the policies they choose to focus on. That's the thing I think we can all say is going to happen is the way they're sort of like with the taxes or with policies around, I don't know, blue cities and blue states. You know, I think that's going to be the area of focus for them is passing rules or trying to pass rules that hit back at the people they don't like. So expect stuff to be against California or like how they want to start raids in Chicago. That's the kind of thing I think they'll be focused on is that the petty nonsense. And as an American, I don't see how that's going to lower the price of eggs. But we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah, I hope Elon Musk's office comes with a Department of Eggs or something. I don't know.
Department of Eggs. No, that's not. He's going to tell you that's not his charter. That's not his charter. His charter is cutting expenses in the budget. His charter is cutting government spending. I don't know whose job it is to fix the eggs. And I want to say, I don't know if people have noticed, the egg prices have gone up, guys. Like, there's a bird flu outbreak happening, and the egg prices have gone very, very much up. So, you know, it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. It's looking like a terrible start.
It's almost as if, like, presidents don't have any control on the prices of eggs.
How dare you say that? How dare you say that? Okay? Don't do that. Huh? I want to say, the other thing that people talked about a lot was like, oh, housing. Honestly, I don't see how that's going to change either. You know, the Republicans are trying to introduce legislation. They said to manipulate. Well, they didn't say manipulate, to regulate the Fed, and obviously the Fed sets interest rates, and interest rates affect home prices. That might be how they deal with housing, but I'm going to be honest. I don't see that happening, like actually passing. So, once again, another thing that is the prices are not going to go down.
Okay, but shouldn't the Fed be independent? Shouldn't the Fed just be making decisions?
Should it, though? Should it? You're not thinking big enough, Olu. You're not thinking big enough. We shouldn't have an independent Fed.
I apologize for asking a stupid question.
I don't think you're thinking. First, you're like, the president can't affect egg prices. It's very small-minded of you. Now you're saying the Fed should be independent, which is very, very small-minded of you. We should have a Fed that operates at the whims of the president.
Okay.
That's not going to affect inflation at all. Okay?
At all. No.
Exactly. If we have 0% interest rates for the next 5 years, obviously housing prices will go down. Obviously. That's what happened last time. You're just not paying attention. Okay?
Okay. I don't know what else to say. We just have to see what happens, you know? Like,
definitely.
And as I said before, and I actually noticed I did not say do your worst. Like, just do your best. Like, I'm actually fully, like, maybe there's something I'm missing. Like,
no.
Maybe you guys got it.
Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? What if we were wrong this entire time? All the economists, all the scientists, all the historians, all of them were wrong.
I actually really hope so, because, I mean, clearly people are going through, like, a rough patch. Like, you know, we are all like, especially as millennials, like so many of us don't have homes, so many of us have not started families. Like there are so many reasons that our particular generation feels like stunted. So I really do hope that this actually does make people's lives better, because I think that only like helps everybody. But the one thing I'm not going to be doing is I'm not going to be like running around like my head is on fire anymore. Like that's just not, I'm not doing the 2016 to 2020 years again. That's just not going to happen.
I
So
don't think that should happen at all. I think and as you said earlier, I think the correct response, if we can give you any piece of advice for the next 4 years, protect yourself, protect your peace. Don't do the MSNBC thing where every little thing he does is a disaster. We can't keep doing that. It's not good for your blood pressure. Okay, let's everyone calm down. Let's save our outrage for actual important shit. For example, his next tax plan. I'm sure that will be thrilling. You know, let's save it for that. Let's not do like every Truth Social post. I can't do that either. And I agree. That's not the way to handle this. I think we are going to have so many opportunities to point out the stupidity of what's happening. I think we should really save ourselves for those moments. Unlike you, I have zero optimism. I don't have any belief that I don't have any belief or hope that the middle class will be helped. What I think is going to happen is there will be people in the middle class who are in very specific fields, like, I don't know, they bought crypto, that are benefiting, you know, because now that's a whole thing. But on a larger, like, societal scale, I'm not holding my breath. And I'm not trying to scare you. I just want people to be prepared. Like, I love optimism, but in this scenario, given what's happened so far and they're not even in office, I'm not holding my breath.
but you know, unfortunately though, the people who bought into crypto, for example, they do lead on a lot of the narrative, right? A lot of the narrative
That's true.
that
That's true.
we've been seeing online is being driven by people with either like crypto lives or crypto adjacent lives, where it's just like, oh, this is how you like make money, right? And this is how you know, live live this like fantastically affluent life, right? And they keep telling people that somebody else is, you know, taking the opportunities away from you. And if you only buy into the MAGA like brain set, you too can, you know, be on a yacht spending your Bitcoin.
I mean,
So
we got to talk about how that's bullshit, but not today. But I
yeah,
understand. I agree with you. Those people are very visible, but I
right.
also think they are a scam. I think
Well,
it's a
yes,
scam.
yes. I mean, that's who Snoop Dogg is, right? Like, there's no
Oh, well, yeah.
like he's like I don't know why people are surprised that Snoop Dogg is performing at Trump's inauguration, for example, because if you look at his trajectory, like with the whole crypto thing, he's one of the celebrities who people followed down the rabbit hole into like investing in weird coins. And he's making a ton of money from it. And all for all of those people who are like Snoop Dogg on a smaller scale, as far as they're concerned, you know, this is Christmas.
This is Christmas. I mean, he's not this guy's not a scammer. I don't know if you know who Portnoy is
Oh, this
from.
is the Barstool Sports guy?
Yes, from Barstool Sports. Did you see
Yes.
he had posted that just today he posted that he bought the Trump coin and it went 200% overnight. So he sold it, made like $1 million, and now he's going to bet that on the Buffalo Bills, who are playing today in the football game for the playoffs. That's who's going to be having a grand old time. People who are willing, who can 2x their investment overnight on gambling, basically. And
Right.
then $1 million is not a life changing amount of money. He's going to bet it on a football game later.
Right.
If you're not that person, I don't think this is going to be a fun 4 years for you. And you shouldn't be listening to that person because you and that person don't have anything in common
Yep.
at all. So, we'll see how it goes.
Yes, indeed. We will be covering the rest of the year, but we will also be trying to lean probably a little bit away from politics and
Yes. Well, yeah.
cover
Yeah.
some cultural stories, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's no election, right, for another at least year. So we're not going to be talking about an election. But yeah, we're back 2025. Hooray.
All right, everyone. We have been Olu and Liz. We just want to say a big thank you to you all for joining us this year. We do hope you stick around. As always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and liberalbanter.com, where you can shop some merch. See you next week. Bye now.